welcome to episode 4 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast for discussing Apple gear and tips for using it all in a fun, productive, and meaningful way. I am David Ginsburg, along with my co-host Melissa Davis. There is always something new to learn, and we aim to bring that to you here. The star of our show is iOS, the operating system that runs on iPhone and iPad, and all the features that make it one of the most popular platforms in the world. We'll also talk about Apple Watch, Apple TV, sometimes Mac, and any other technologies that we use with our gear, whether it's challenging or it just works. Hi, Melissa. How are you today?
Hey, Dave. I'm excited to be here again. I'm glad we're getting back into the swing of recording. And we have so much to talk about.
We do. And I was so super thrilled that you and I were able to hook up and see each other in person. You were having your spring break in Las Vegas, of all places, and I was in Las Vegas because I went to meet with my friends for March Madness, for my little vacation. So we got to meet up and got to show you a few of those sites, but it looked like you had a lot more fun after I had left you. Because you guys were tearing up the town after I had departed for the afternoon.
I had a little bit of fun before we got together, because remember who I did get to hang out with in addition to you?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Barry Falk, of course.
Our friend Barry. I just listened to your episode on Mac Guys Only that was just released a little while ago, and it sounded really great, and I had to laugh. I was giggling. I was driving, and I was listening to it. I wish you could have seen me giggling in the car, because Barry was talking about playing Pokemon Go. And when we got together, what did we do? He was playing Pokemon Go with my little Keegan. And it was just so adorable. I'll have to send you some pictures of that. It was like they were speaking a whole new language together. It was really cute. So, yeah, unfortunately
I still can't get into it. I'm sorry. I don't know. I maybe one of these days. I just can't.
Well, we're going to see each other again in Chicago, and you're going to have to deal with the boys. And so you're probably going to get an earful again.
This is true. And we'll talk about that a little later in the show about MacStock.
Yeah.
But the other great thing, of course, being us Apple geeks that we are, we had to go to the Apple Store. Now, I went to 2 Apple stores when I was in Vegas. I went to the first one, which is in Caesar's Palace, the Forum Shops, and that's where you and I went. And I also went to the store out in Summerlin. I ended up buying a watch band because they have the Nike. Were you ready to think I was going to buy like another iPad or something, right?
I know. I had to catch my breath for a little bit there. I was like, "Oh, what did you buy now?"
No, I was good. I only spent $49 and I got the Nike bands. They're selling them as a separate thing now. So and I like it a lot. It's actually nice. But we'll get into that. But one of the coolest things was we actually met up with one of the greatest genius guys at the Apple Store, Steve, in the Vegas store in the Forum Shops.
We shall now be dubbed Apple Store Steve.
And we're going to call him Las Vegas Steve or Apple Store guy Steve.
Oh, Las Vegas Steve? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But we were able to actually meet up with him, and he showed us that he actually is pictured on the rotating photos that are on their support website showing him giving a tip. So not only did he let us take pictures with him, we actually he actually gave us 3 tips that we didn't know about. And that's what's great about this show, is because we always learning something new. I can never say I know everything. It's impossible. But I'm always learning something. We want to be able to share some of these new things with you. Melissa, why don't you tell everybody what the first tip was that we learned?
So this one is print to PDF. So have you ever been holding your iPhone and let's say, this is where this really comes in handy. I actually just did this not long ago. When I went on my last plane ride, there was a couple of articles. I'm at the airport and I'm thinking, "Ooh, I want to read this. Ooh, I want to read this." But I wasn't gonna fork over the hefty fee for the internet in the plane. So what I did was I made PDFs of the articles that I wanted to read. I actually put them in reader mode. You know how you can tap on the little lines next to the URL up at the top. And that gets rid of some of the ads sometimes. And then I converted them to PDFs. And what that does is then it stores it in your iBooks app. And then when you're offline, when you're not connected to the internet, you can go and read those articles to your heart's content. But Apple Store Steve or Las Vegas Steve, I don't know. We'll have to come to a consensus for that. Yep. He showed us an even easier way to create a PDF. And it goes something like this. When you have the page open, let's say you're on a website and you tap on the share button and you go to print it. Well, instead of having to look for an app or a third-party utility of some sort to go then save that to a PDF, or even skipping the step of even sending it to iBooks, it's as simple as just pinching outward and it creates a PDF instantaneously. Like, you know how you zoom out on a photograph? It's that gesture, pinching out to basically zoom in onto the page. And you just kind of pinch out and let go, and it creates a PDF. And it opens it right on your screen.
Yeah. And what it does is when it opens up on your screen, you have the option just to print it. And if you print it, it'll just basically go right, like you're printing to a printer. You would just print it and it becomes a PDF. And then you can send it to any of your favorite apps that save it to as a PDF. Yeah.
Or just, if you're in a hurry and like I said, your plane is boarding and, you quickly wanted to save that article for offline, you just pinch it open and it turns into a PDF and then you can just read it offline.
It's just so cool.
It was like,
but we'll put that in the show notes for sure. and all these tips will go in the show notes, of course.
Yeah, we'll have. I actually have annotated screenshots that I'm going to put in the show notes for the visual people.
You are the best.
Well, I'm a visual person. I like to see pictures. You want to take the next one? This one is audio and visual ways to ping your iPhone.
Yeah, this was kind of cool. There's, the normal way, if for those of you who have an Apple Watch, if you scroll up on your watch, there is a button on there that looks with the phone with the little wires next to it saying that you're going to push that and it notifies your iPhone and rings it. So it tells you so you can find it. So it's a good way if you have it squished between the couch cushions or someplace you misplaced it. Very easy to find it.
I'm going to go ahead and ping it and play the sound so they can hear what that sounds like.
Yeah, go ahead.
And all it does is just ring it just that one time. It doesn't, go on forever and ever and ever. So you have to do it a couple times.
Yeah, you have to keep doing it. And but unlike if you use Find My iPhone, where it constantly is ringing until you find it. But another way you can do it is do a visual way of being able to find your phone. You can ping it by holding the iPhone button on the watch. And what will happen is the light, the flashlight will flash instead of make the ping sound. So you'll see the light flashing on and off. So that was a really cool tip, allowing you to be able to visually see where the phone is as opposed to having to hear it with that ping.
Yeah, because that torch is pretty darn bright.
It is.
And so if you're all the way across the room, and I've been using it more and more. I mean, I didn't think I would have much of a need for it. I thought that'd be great for some accessibility folks, but I actually have been finding it really useful because there's so many times where in my house, I've got little kids and they're just noisy at times. And so there's times where I'm pinging it. I can hear it, but I can't exactly gauge the directionality very well. And so having that light flashing is like, oh, there it is. It's just, it's kind of like when you're looking for your car in a busy parking lot and you sort of have about an idea of where you parked it and you go and you press like your little, your key fob to light up the lights. It's kind of like that.
Exactly.
So it's been very helpful.
So that's the second tip that Las Vegas Steve gave us. Do you want to give him the third tip?
Yeah, so the third one is, and this again, these are all, well, except for the first one, these are Apple Watch tips, these last two. This one is for when you get a phone call, and a lot of us Apple Watch users are noticing that we're starting to put our phone down. It's not in our pocket so much anymore. And so a lot of times a phone call will come through and you're like, here's my Dick Tracy moment. I'm going to answer this call, right? And so you answer it and then you realize that either it's noisy or you can't hear, or for whatever reason, you really don't want this to be like a public phone call. And you say, hold on, let me go switch this call to my phone. So with this last tip, you can bypass the need to answer the phone right away and switch it by putting the caller on hold using your Apple Watch. So the way that you do that is when the call comes through, instead of answering it, you scroll up using the digital crown. As you scroll up, you'll see the red and the green icons. Below those, you'll see two buttons that you can tap. One says send a message, and the other one says answer on iPhone. So when you tap answer on iPhone, it'll place your caller on hold, and it'll even give them an audio indication that they've been placed on hold so that they know that you're going to answer the phone. And then, just like in the last tip, if you have misplaced your phone, you're trying to get to this call while they're on hold, it'll give you the button for pinging the phone right there. So you can actually locate your phone and then answer it. It sounds a little bit more professional when you can just put them on hold instead of fumbling for your iPhone. And the way that Apple Store Steve described it to us was that when you answer the phone, then you can say, oh, that was my personal assistant. So I thought that was pretty handy. That's one I don't have enough opportunity to really use it as much, but have you been using it more?
No, I haven't used it that much. I mean, I don't answer the phone on my watch that frequently. I honestly don't think a lot of people do, because, unless it's a quick way to answer something. If you're in public, obviously you want to be having a conversation on the speakerphone and disrupting everybody. But there are 3 great tips. I didn't know them, and I was.
Yeah, we didn't know either of these tips, and now you
do have that
knowledge. So this was something that did not hang out in the treasure trove for very long.
No, we couldn't hold back.
Nope, couldn't hold on to these. So thanks to Apple Store Steve, wherever you are, if you're out there listening by any chance. We did talk to him about our podcast, and he was very impressed and really, really sweet guy. In fact, he was telling us all kinds of stories about other tips that he's given people. And I don't know about you, Dave, but I got the sense that the dude works for hugs, so I gave him a hug.
and we all 3 of us got a picture together too.
We did.
So, but we wanted to, because that was part of the meetup when Melissa and I met up. That was kind of the highlight of our trip. Well, that comes to anybody, at least the geeky part. But
yeah, we kind of had to make a beeline to the store, and it's so cute because my husband was along and my kids were along, and Keegan ran right in and made a beeline for the iPads, and Lucian went in there and started playing on the Apple TVs and stuff. Like, they know their place. They know what they're supposed to do. And my husband, assumes the position with the camera. He's like, all right, I got to take the pictures. And he's like, oh, he looks at Dave and I. He's like, bye-bye. See you later.
I'm going to do something else. But speaking of iPad, Apple did release a new iPad this past month, which I was very surprised about. But it wasn't really something
that new. It was like a soft
new.
release kind of, sort of, wasn't it?
It was kind of like a soft release, because they still have the iPad Pro with the 2 sizes we already know about, and the iPad Mini 4 is still the same model. That hasn't changed. So basically what they did is, they discontinued the iPad Air 2. That was what that was. And this basically is like a full-fledged Air, but they did do a bump in the processing chip. So this has one of the biggest things is the price, because you can now get into an entry-level iPad for $329.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
exciting.
What I said. $329, and I think that's going to be a big thing on the education side, which we'll talk about in a
certainly hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
After what I've been dealing with iPad 2s, when I saw this come out, I was like, please replace them.
Because, Apple realizes there's still a lot of iPad 1s, a lot of iPad 2s. iPad 3s are still out there, iPad 4s. There's pretty much the first 4 generations of iPads are still out there being used. Granted, the iPad 1
updates.
is, way end of life. It's running, I think, iOS 5. So there really isn't much it can run other than browse the internet, and I know it's pretty painfully slow. But anyway, just going back onto the specs real quick, it does have a 64-bit A9 chip and 10-hour battery life, which is great. And of course, it runs iOS 10, and it's got the Touch ID. Does the Apple the iPad the Air? I don't remember. I think the Air did have the Touch. Well, maybe not.
Yeah,
the Air didn't. The Air 2 did.
Oh, yeah, the Air 2 I'm pretty sure did, because it had the ring on it.
So it didn't change. That didn't change. But again, it's a great iPad for 9.7-inch size. High resolution. You're getting a lot of bang for your buck for that $329 entry level. So I would not be surprised to see a lot of people go out there and grab this to get their old iPads upgraded.
Well, now I'm in your shoes, because now I'm tempted to get this new one since it came out, because it does seem a little more affordable.
Yeah.
And the last time, and Mother's Day's coming up. Hint, hint, hint.
There you go. Hint, hint.
I got myself my 4th gen iPad that I have was kind of a Mother's Day gift to myself when that was released, and so it's starting to get long in the tooth. It's getting a little slow.
Yeah. Well,
and this is so silly, but one of the biggest usually I can hold on to things a lot longer because of, the operating system keeps getting updated. But two things are probably going to push me over when it comes to the new iPad. And those two things are the fact that it's no longer getting any more iOS updates. So this is the last update that it had gotten, was before what we're going to talk about soon, 10.3.
Yes.
And the second thing is Swift Playgrounds. It's not eligible for Swift Playgrounds. And I've got two little boys that go to a science school, and this is their future. I want them to learn that. So there's plenty. It's not like, there's plenty of other resources for them to learn code, but I really want them to learn Swift Playgrounds, and plus I want to learn it too.
Absolutely.
I blame everything on my kids, but I want to play with it too. So those two things are probably going to push me over the edge. But now, so I wanted to pick your brain about this, Dave, is now what I'm torn about, though, is should I get the new iPad? Because, let's face it, I think the Pro is a little overkill for my needs. Yes, it's great, and yes, I do graphics on the side, and I enjoy that sort of thing. And if it was what was buttering my bread full time all the time, I'd probably go with the Pro. But this is really more for kind of like me and the kids. It's more of two main reasons: education for my kids to be able to use it, and learn on it, and for business also, because I kind of have to have the stuff that I need to support. And so if I wait too long, I'm going to end up in a rut where people are going to call and ask me questions about an operating system that I no longer have on an iPad. So I'm torn, though, between the iPad and the iPad Mini 4. And I'm not quite sure what I want to do there. I know that the iPad's got it's got a beefier processor, right? It's got the newer chip in it.
Right.
And I know some people complain about the laminated screen, which I don't know if that's going to really bother me all that much. Do you think that would bother you, having the laminated versus the non?
No, I don't think it'd be that much. You got to take into account that the Mini 4 has not been updated, so it's got the older chip.
And I wonder, do you think they'll keep the Mini around? That's a totally different form factor, and there's probably a big enough market for that size. And I really like that size. I want to try that form factor.
There was some rumor that they're looking to maybe put something in between the 9.7 and the 12.9 inch size screen, a 10.5, so a slightly bigger screen. So it is possible that they could take the Mini 4 and put it into retirement, and then just make the 9.7 as a smaller one. But the Mini is a nice little small iPad, and I think a lot of people like it. It's just like with people who use the Kindle Fire. It's a small little device. They like to be able to read a book and do small things with that. I think the Mini it still has a market. I think Apple saw the writing on the wall, because the iPad sales have been very stagnant in the last couple of years, and
they had to do something.
By them coming out with this new model to really get back at the education market. As I mentioned earlier, I really see the education market looking closer now, because they've all been going to these Chromebooks, and I just people say these Chromebooks are all great and all, but you're locked to being on the internet, and you don't have an OS and apps and all that stuff. They're all built into the Chrome browser, but I think the iPad has been very, very ideal in the education. But you worked in education, so I guess you could comment a little more on that.
Yeah, I've worked in it, and I volunteer in it, so I see a lot what goes on there, and I am kind of torn. I kind of see the need for both. Okay. And there's just so much management. Unless the apps are going to be cloud-based, if kids are using education apps and the information is stored on the disk, that really creates a lot of problems. Right. It's so you still do need to have that internet connectivity. It's great for consumers. Like I said, I'm just so torn between those two form factors, because I really am attracted to the idea of going smaller. Because I really there's very specific things I want to be able to use it for, and part of me would say, well, if I'm going to go with an iPad Mini, then why don't I just get an iPhone 7 Plus, or when the 8 or whatever comes out next, why don't I just get the plus size? Because that was another consideration too. But it's about the apps and things that will only run on the iPad that I'm interested in, and I need to be able to test those out for a lot of different variations. So I don't think I'm in a position where I just can't not have an iPad. There needs to be an iPad in this family for very specific reasons. Now I just have to decide what form factor I want, because we've had the 4th gen, so that's basically like the 9.7 inch.
Right.
And after carrying that around for so many years now, it's there's times when it used to be I was very fastidious about it, and it's going to sound silly, but I base my clothing choices and my bag choices on whether or not I can fit my devices in it. I'll just be honest. I've got this pair of like yoga pants that just have the perfect pocket on the side of the leg that fits my iPhone just perfectly, and I'm if anybody's listening and you find these darn yoga pants that have the perfect pocket, will you please let me know, because I can't find them anywhere. It's driving me crazy. But back to the iPad, I mean, I'm always looking for the bag that fits it.
Right.
And I've been experimenting with different things, and there's times when we've been leaving the house without the iPad because it's just so big to have to shove in there.
True.
It's like one more thing we have to carry. But if I had the mini, I don't know that I'd have that excuse as much.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, again,
so you're going to have to stay tuned to see what Melissa decides to get.
Again, quickly before we move on here, I'll go back to the processor differences.
yeah.
I mean, there's not a huge difference. You got an A8 to an A9. You do have the co-processor for video on the iPad Mini 4. So I can't see a drastic difference you'd notice as far as processing speed, but I believe 64-bit is the big thing it's going to be for the future too. But which all iPads right now will be able to run, which I'll talk about that with the new update with the file system change. And
plus, I think the hard drive size, I think you can get a 128 iPad 4 for the same price, right? Or something close to it or something. And we talked about, how you're a crazy person as far as the sizes and stuff go of hard drives. And I'm a little bit more conservative, or at least I think I can control myself a little bit better when it comes to that. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean,
I would love to.
I bought that iPhone because that's all it was available. I didn't want to wait. That's as simple. That was the only reason why.
But I wouldn't turn down a 128 gigabyte iPad 4, because then I would just stick all my 40-some thousand photos on it, and I'd actually probably download more and keep them on the device, and actually probably maybe play with photo editing more on the iPad. Whereas my 4th gen kind of has limited me in that aspect because it's only 32 gigabytes. So there's not, because I have kids and I have apps and they take up so much room. Oh my gosh, there's just no room for anything else. So it's going to happen. I'm just not sure which.
We'll have to stay tuned. Yes. So let's move on. And I know you're an absolute lover of these products. And again, they're not a sponsor because we don't have sponsors here yet. But I did buy one of these a while back, the wired version of it, and it's basically like a little headband that goes around your head, and it's got little earphones built into the headband, and you can plug it into your iDevice and be able to listen while you're sleeping at night. And those are called sleep phones. And Melissa, you've got so much to talk about here. I'm just going to let you go at it.
Go take a break. I'll take a break.
I'll chime in here, but because I have some comments.
So we've talked about these on previous episodes. We've talked about how much we like them. What got us talking about this was way back before the iPhone 7 came out, and I was literally losing sleep over this because the rumor at the time was that the headphone port was going to go away, and it came true. It did. And so we were talking about, well, what were we going to do? What were we going to use for headphones? And that I had relied on these things so much because I was always, at night, I would have these things plugged in, and then I would have my phone being, charging overnight, because I'm not going to listen to stuff and then wake up to a dead phone or an alarm that doesn't go off. So I was very kind of like, I gotta be plugged in. I'm like tethered to my nightstand, basically, And so I was really kind of stressing out about it. And then I was actually talking about it on another podcast, the Geekiest Show Ever. I do record over there occasionally. And oddly enough, the people from Acoustic Sheep were listening or got wind of it. And they sent me 2 of the wireless pairs to check them out, because I was talking about how much I love these and how much I was just sad that I wasn't going to be able to use them anymore if I upgraded my iPhone. And I was just so worried about it. And so basically my wish was granted. I mean, we were talking about how much we really wanted the wireless version of these things. We were lusting after them. So they sent me a pair of the wireless and a pair of the effortless. And the difference between the two is, I mean, they're both fantastic. The wireless it's it's just how they charge. The wireless, you actually have to, there's a little piece of, oh my gosh, these things are designed. They're built so wonderfully. The craftsmanship and the build quality of them is just fantastic. There's several different fabrics to choose from. I have the fleece kind, and you were talking about, Dave, how the fleece kind of make your face sweat a little bit, and I could see how that would happen. I mean, it gets quite hot here in Arizona, and there's something else called sheep cloud, and there's a breeze. So I would recommend the breeze version for you. So not only did they,
I want to get a pink.
Oh, you have to. there's all different kinds of designer fabrics, like different kinds of what do you call it? There are different styles. There's different colors. There are different prints is what I was looking for. And so not only did they send me the different models to try out, they also sent me the different fabrics. And I'd already had the fleece and I was familiar with that. And then I think they developed something that was even softer. And that's what they're referring to as the sheep cloud fleece. And it's great. It's wonderful. I actually like these better than the breeze, which I think you would like the breeze better. The breeze is more like a, for runners and people who jog, and it's a lighter fabric. It's not nearly as heavy as the fleece. It's not that terry cloth kind of feel. It's hard to describe. It's more of a silkier feel with spandex in it. So I tried out both of those, and so my husband uses the wireless and I use the effortless. And like I was saying, the difference is in how they charge. So the wireless, you have to basically peel apart this little piece of Velcro. That's why I like to gush about the craftsmanship, because the way that these are built, the Velcro is stitched in such a way that when you peel it apart and you seal it back up again, it almost makes it like it's seamless. I mean, you can see the seam when you're close up, but just looking at it, it folds under just nicely, and it's just the way that it's stitched. It's really, really well made. With the wireless, you have to pull that apart and you unplug. There's like a little tiny, it's the Bluetooth wireless device inside of it. So like we said, it's a band, and you pull the little plug out, and then that's what you plug into the charger. And it's just a USB, just like your iPhone, with a USB. I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it's Mini B on the other end. I'll post a picture of it so you can see what it looks like. And it's just
micro USB.
It's just micro. Yeah, it's probably micro. It's a common end that you see on all other devices. And so you plug that in and you charge it, and it lets you know. But the battery life is like 6 hours or something like that, or 8 hours. I mean, it's just really long. I only have to charge them every other night or so. And that's only because I want to make sure that I have a charge and I don't run out of juice. But I get a whole night's sleep and, 2 nights sleep basically, and it goes down to like 70%. I still have battery charge. So the battery is phenomenal in both of them. And then the effortless version, the reason it's called effortless is because, unlike the wireless, you don't have to pull apart the seam to take out a charger. All you do, is this called inductive or conductive? It's a metal magnetic base. It's like a magnet. And that's what you keep on your nightstand. And when you're going to charge it, you have to kind of feel for the buttons where they are, and you just basically stick it on there and it starts charging. It gives you a little red, a yellow, or a green light and lets you know that when it's connected properly, it'll turn green, and then it blinks, and it blinks until it's charged, and then when it's charged, it's solid. So it's a very, very visual way with colors, lets you know when it's charged. And that's why it's called effortless, because you don't really have to fiddle with it all that much. You just kind of put it on this little magnetic stand, and then it charges, and then you're ready to go for the next night. It's just, I love that you can take them apart. You can switch depending on if you like the tag in the back or the front, because it's a little bit, the way that it's constructed is it's a little bit wider in one section and a little bit more narrow in another. So it kind of depends on if you want to wear it with the tag in the back, which I do, or the tag in the front, if you want a little bit wider, more fabric over your eyes, I like it even with the narrow part in the front. There's no light that gets in. But, oh my gosh, I suffer from insomnia. So this is why I just have to brag about these, because nothing has helped me. I mean, I've tried Benadryl, I've tried medications, all kinds of stuff. And the only thing that helps me is being able to wear these and listen to music. I'll talk about it in depth some more in another podcast, but I listen to what's called ASMR YouTube videos, and they help you fall asleep. They're for relaxation and things. There's also apps that you can try that have binaural beats, which is how I discovered that, which basically makes a tone that repeats at a certain frequency, and it goes from your left to your right ear, and that helps. So I've just been really successful trying to be able to get naps and to try to get some sleep, some relief, basically. Even there's been times where I might just want to lay down for a nap and I just need darkness, and I just use them as just a sleep mask. I don't even have any music playing, and it helps me relax. And I just can't believe how a little piece of fabric with some speakers in it can make such a difference in my life and my quality of life and my quality of sleep. I, like a lot of people, I sleep with a spouse who snores, and it helps with that too. And there's been times when the kids might have trouble sleeping, and I've set up the little playlists and had them play with it. And then there's just so many cute things. There's a little sheep, little stuffed animal they have that's their little mascot, and his name is Cirrus. And they sent me one of those. And the thing that's cute about it is these are for like older iPods, where it has another little stitch in the back where you pull apart the seam. It's Velcroed, and you stick your iPod in there. You set your playlist, and you put it in there. This is for the wired version, for the old-fashioned version. And you play your sounds, and you cuddle up with a little sheep. And then because of the way it's constructed, you're not going to be pressing buttons and turning off your iPod in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. So I just thought that was really cute. It's like they think of everything. So, they're a little pricey, but I think they're worth it. The wireless is $99.95. The effortless is $129.95. Some of them come with, or you can download binaural beats or music that's specifically crafted for insomniacs like me to listen to. So, and those don't cost anything extra, and they've got great support on their website. Oh, and then oh my gosh, I keep thinking of things that are awesome about this. One more thing, I actually asked them about this, and they didn't know at the time, and now they do. One of my biggest questions was, okay, this is a Bluetooth wireless device, and I know that you can connect wireless speakers to the new 4th gen Apple TV. Well, guess what, Dave? You can connect wireless or effortless sleep phones to your Apple TV 4th gen. That's awesome. So awesome. And both my husband have, since we have the two, we have them both paired to it. So when he wants to watch TV and I don't want to have to hear it, then he pairs his and he puts the sound on his, or vice versa. And that was like one of the best bonus features. So check them out. We'll have links to them in the show notes. And like I said, they're not a sponsor necessarily, but they've sponsored my sleep. So I have to brag about them. And I'm just really grateful that they sent me these to review. And so I've been wanting to gush about them all this time. And so there you have it.
No, that's why we wanted to fit it in the episode, just so you could talk about them. As I know we talked about it at the beginning of our starting of this show.
And now I'll sleep even better now that I talked about it.
Now you can sleep a lot better. Speaking of sleeping better, we've got a rash of updates that happened this past 2 weeks from Apple. iOS 10.3 hit the updates. Also, WatchOS 3.2, as well as tvOS 10.2. So I'm going to kind of go over, and we'll talk about it here. We'll go over some of the changes and some of the improvements that iOS 10.3 has been added, as well as they have not even a week later they released a update to it. Now we're at 10.3.1, which we'll also talk about. So really in a nutshell, a lot of the changes in iOS 10.3 was the file system, which they're now calling it APFS, which I'll talk about in a minute. And one of the things I did notice a big change is the settings app. A lot of changes are afoot. If you notice when you go into the settings, it now shows your name and your icon at the top of the of that menu. Also shows where your name and your phone numbers and email and all that information. One of the biggest things it did was it's forcing you now. Well, it's not forcing you, but it's recommending. I don't know if you did it, if you already were doing it. Was the two-factor authentication. Mm-hmm. Did you turn yours on yet?
No, I don't have.
Are you still on the fence with that?
I do have. I have the other version. I don't have the. I always get them confused. I don't have the version where I don't have to use a second device and put in a verification code each time. But I do have two-factor. There's two-factor and then there's something else, isn't there?
Well, that is two-factor authentication because it does require for you to another device will pop up and have you
and I
confirm
don't
it by
have to
using
do that with
putting a code
mine,
in.
but I do have the other security on it where I had to actually download a what is it called? There's a special key. Like I even have app specific passwords set up. I mean, I have it pretty well locked down. I just don't have to use a secondary device to do it. Or at least it just hasn't bugged me in a while. Maybe I've just saved all the browsers and but I do love that I can see all of my devices in this list now.
Yeah. It's now in the list here instead of you having, because before you had in the list, or what Mills is talking about is in the settings, it does show all your other devices that are on your iCloud account. But just going back real quick to the password and security, what it does is it's actually nagging you. Because I didn't turn on two-factor authentication, I'll be honest, at first, because I was like, God, it's going to drive me crazy when you have to put that PIN code in every time you want to put your password in and try to, if you forget and all this stuff.
I had to turn it off for a couple of my clients because they kept resetting their password.
Yeah.
Because then it would loop them to the did you forget your password? And they said, yep, I did. Even though we had it in one password and everywhere else, they were just so confused, and it just caused more problems than it solved, unfortunately. But I do highly recommend it if you can handle it. I
do recommend it too, because now that I'm doing it, I feel a lot more secure, and especially with all that news what we want to talk about is with the potential hack that was happening with iCloud. Completely recommended everybody to change their iCloud password and turn on this two-factor authentication because you're definitely going to be protected. But as I said, it does show the list of all your devices, including Macs, including Apple TVs, Apple Watches. Everything that's linked to your Apple ID is now listed in the Settings app on your iOS device. And the great thing about it, too, is you can actually tap these devices and find out the information you need. Like if you need to get a serial number from your iPad or if your Mac or wherever, it does give you access to that stuff. So that was some of the biggest things that kind of stood out with the updates that they added to iCloud. Now, the other thing that they added was what I just talked about earlier. It's called APFS. Now, what's happening is 10.3 and now 10.31 will automatically convert your iOS device file system from HFS Plus, which has been the mainstay of the file system for not only for iOS but for Mac as well. I think it goes back 30 years to APFS, and we're not going to get too technical with this because we're a show that doesn't go that geeky, but geeky
at least
enough.
If we give like a consumer warning that we're going to get geeky. A
consumer warning, yeah. And this is now the new default file system. Now there was some little concerns that you had to make. You really should have, and you always should whenever you do a new major update like this, because the update from 10.3 from 10.2 to 10.3 was quite an upgrade, and this is the biggest reason because the file system changed. What it's doing is it's helping more efficiencies with the way things are accessed, and it's kind of syncing it along the lines of working this similar to the way a Mac accesses partitions and file system and files and that kind of stuff too. So, but as I said, it was always recommended that you make sure that you were doing a backup before you install 10.3. At this point, as most of the people are listening to this, I would think that at this point in time, everybody is pretty much upgraded. So, but I upgraded it without a problem. There were no issues at all.
It just took a lot longer.
And they did do it did take a bit of a long time on 10.3. The security update, which I'll talk about, is that didn't take very long at all. That was pretty quick. But there was a lot, as they were kind of comparing differences in space when it came to looking at the different models with capacity. There were some noticeable differences as far as gaining some gigabytes in space on your drive with this. It was a small gain, but not a lot. Maybe a few hundred megabytes. Yeah, maybe a gig. But it was pretty cool. I mean, they did do a good job of adding some more space by making things
giggers out there, and that's most of my clients. So it's any time we can get more space on there is a good thing because they're going to be out there for a while.
Yep.
I figured out what it is, Dave. Before we go on because I wanted to ask you about this. I figured out what it is. It's two-step versus two-factor, and
Oh,
And
right.
I
Two-step
have
authentication.
two-step enabled because that's the one where I actually have another passcode that I actually had to, make sure I document it everywhere because like if I
Right.
lose that, I can't get back into it. And I set that up for, a long time ago. And I was trying to debate on whether or not I wanted to change it to two-factor authentication so that I could play with having my Mac unlocked with my watch and that sort of thing. And I just never got there
Right.
because then once I got the new Mac and I got the Touch ID, I was like, well, this is just cool. So I've just been happy with that. So I've left it at two-step. But that's not to mean
Gotcha.
that I won't change it to two-factor just so I can drink the Kool-Aid and eat the dog food and all that stuff.
That's right.
Eat the dog food
right.
first, wash it down with the Kool-Aid.
Good. I'm glad we cleared that up. More things that they added with 10.3 is there is faster animations. You may not really notice it too much, but Apple's had a never-ending quest to mess with the app launching animations, which was introduced back in iOS 7. When you launch or close an app, you can see the icon tap sort of expand to take up the entire screen. That was how it used to do it in 10.3. That expansion process happens a lot more quickly. So it's just enough to give you a greater sense of speed.
I think a lot of people turn
So
that
it
off
does-
at times too, especially with older
Yeah,
devices.
that's
I
lots of
just
they
checked
do.
to see
Me
if
too.
I had it enabled, and I turned it off a while ago because I
So
talked
most
about
people-
my battery issues in the past, and one of those the animations. I'm looking for places where I can sort of trim the fat and keep my battery lasting as long as I possibly can when I'm out and about and in the heat out here. And so I turned that off a while ago, but. Yeah, it's nice to know that that's a little snappier because it was bugging people.
Oh yeah, for sure. The other thing that they've that's really you got to think about soon is the impending end of the 32-bit operating system, iOS. This is now going to be 64-bit, and probably even more when iOS 11 comes out. Usually it'll be in the fall when we'll have the Worldwide Developers Conference coming up in a couple months here, and I'm sure we're going to hear about the new one. But what you can do is you can look at app compatibility because there are a lot of app developers out there that have kind of abandoned apps out there. And if you still have some of these apps on there, the way you can find out is if you go into General and go into About, and then About lists all of your information about your phone or your iPad. The applications section, if there are applications that are not compatible anymore, there's going to be a little arrow next to the number of how many applications you have installed.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Of course, I'm looking
Just
at
a couple days ago. I was like, "Ooh,
look
there's
at
a little
mine.
triangle. That means there's something more."
There's
Out of
something more.
226 applications on my phone, there's quite a few that are in the naughty list.
Yep. And I'm just now looking at my phone here, and how could I only have 38 gigabytes out of my 256? I must be really. I took a lot of photos.
You did take my advice then.
Yes. And it shows me 210 applications. So what would happen is you I'll get off the tangent here. What happens here is you tap the applications link there, and it's going to give you a list of all the applications that they think will slow down your iPhone or your iPad because the developer has not done a good job of updating their apps timely, or they've pretty much
or if it's been
abandoned it.
pulled.
Here's a good
like one
example.
of these,
Or it's been pulled,
It's
like
no
Flappy
longer
Bird.
available in the App Store. Like, okay.
Right. So yeah. So what's going to happen is app developers are going to be scrambling. They always scramble when a new OS comes out. So I would say take a look at those apps, and this is a good way of kind of clearing things up and thinking, hey, do I really need this app anymore? Do I use it anymore?
Yes, I really do need my
and-
great
and-
lightsaber. So, ByteFlux, if you're listening, come on, get with the program here. I need my lightsaber. I got to be able to play lightsaber with my kids.
Like I see on this article I'm reading is it's got Flappy Bird that obviously hasn't been updated in a long time. So that's one of the things. A few other things that it added. If you have the AirPods, if you remember, I don't know if I may have mentioned this in the last other episodes. There was a developer that actually came up with an app to help you find your AirPods because, of course, they're Bluetooth and wireless, and you can easily lose them. Well, first off, Apple pulled that app, so for obvious reasons, because what they did is they incorporated the current or last known location of your AirPods in the Find My iPhone app that you'd use already to to find your devices when they lose. And you can play a sound on one or both of those AirPods to find them. So they added that as well. There was in Siri, there was a couple things added, nothing worth noting. Support for checking car fuel level, lock status, and other stuff with automaker apps, things of that nature. CarPlay has added some things, nothing really too crazy that I really have to mention, just for the sake of time. And just a lot of stability and fixes. So 10.3 was a really good update, and I definitely I recommend updating to it, especially now we're at the 10.3.1. And 10.3.1 is really important. There is a lot of security fixes that were added to it. Apple really didn't give any real specific details or notes on it, but things like it addresses a buffer overflow that could exploit and execute code on your phone's or tablet's Wi-Fi chip, things like that. And of course, 10.3.1 comes out. They've already started the beta. So they're on beta 10.3.2. So we could go on and on when it comes to that stuff.
I was happy about the Bluetooth fixes. I was actually...
Yeah, the Bluetooth...
I was doing a field test today before the show because, I thought it was maybe, and it could still be, I thought maybe ever since I got the Apple Watch that threw a monkey wrench into things, into my sort of ecosystem. So I use... I believe it's a Plantronics earpiece, a Bluetooth earpiece in my ear while I'm driving. And I use Siri while I'm driving to do a lot of voice commands, and I'm a pretty heavy user of it. I mean, I listen to podcasts, I listen to music, I do driving directions because, it's part of my job. I need to go on house calls, and I'm always using maps and things like that. We talked about that on a different show. And that was part of the problems that I was having when I added the Apple Watch. It seemed like I had one more Bluetooth that was in that little circuit or something. And so my earpiece was constantly dropping the connection. There was constantly, I'd go and say a command and I'd wait and wait and wait. And I'm thinking, what is going on? And then finally it would come through and it would say that the connection was lost. The little Plantronics lady would come in your ear and say that the connection had been lost. And then you'd have to go and try to resync it. And while you're driving, that's not safe. So you don't want to be dealing with that kind of stuff. And so for a while there, I thought maybe I'd try as I was driving, because I thought maybe the Apple Watch was listening to me when I was saying, "Hey, phone lady." And so I would flip it up and tap on the air. I would put it in airplane mode. And then I thought, well, what's the fun in that? So it was just really frustrating. And so today, before we recorded this, I was actually driving around and I started throwing all kinds of things at it. I got it to give me directions. I was driving. I was texting Dave. I was asking it about the weather. I was just trying to confuse the heck out of it as best I could. I was really trying to jumble it. And I threw everything at it that I could think about, all the things that had been giving me problems. And it was pretty smooth. So I think they must have ironed out those wrinkles. So I'm a pretty happy camper.
Oh, yeah, that's really awesome. Definitely really awesome.
Have you noticed any improvements on your end that you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, I did that Bluetooth there was an issue because it was actually my phone. Yeah, because it dropped on my car. My car has Bluetooth connection. And I had to
I've heard some people asking questions about that on other shows and reading on other forums and stuff. So it'll be nice if this fixes it for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the sake of time here, let's. I'm going to get through here and just talk briefly about WatchOS and tvOS. There wasn't much on the WatchOS, and 3.2 came out. A couple of the biggest things that were added was including theater mode, which is a really clever feature that allows you to mute your Apple Watch and disable the raised awake for your watch display, because that's always annoying when your watch lights up and you're in a movie theater and it's dark.
I could see that being handy. I thought it was going to be a pain because I thought it was going to block signals and stuff like that. But it turns out it's not as big of a deal as I thought it was. It's a welcomed addition.
It's a welcomable feature, and you'll see the icon there. It's got the little theater icon that's in the drop menu. In fact,
so you have to swipe.
You have
to swipe from the bottom, and then you'll see that page of icons.
From the bottom.
And
it's all the way at the bottom.
And then you have to scroll just a little bit to get to it. A little happy sad.
At least it's easier place to access. The other thing they added was Siri Kit, which is a good addition because now it's going to be able to add third-party apps that'll be able to be developed for the watch. That was only available on just iOS devices. So that's going to be great. So people can develop some third-party stuff for Siri to work with the watch too. So that was really all that was in the Watch OS, other than just some improvements and stability improvements. And then TV OS, again, there wasn't a lot on there other than some stability updates for the 4th gen. Of course, remember, this is just for the 4th gen TV, Apple TVs. So, the 2nd and 3rd gens are at the end of the road
they get no love.
as far as that goes. I don't know, more love anymore, but they still work. So, the big thing they did is, and this also goes across on the Mac and iPhone or iPad, is the Watch Anywhere video rental support. You didn't have that before. You could only watch a movie that you rent through the iTunes store, the iTunes movie store. You could only watch the rental when at the point of where you purchased it, which would be less if it's on your iPad or your iPhone. You couldn't transfer. Well, now they've changed that, so now the rental is accessible through all the platforms, including tvOS, and they added that to it. And it was kind of cool because I had rented a movie last week, and it warned me when I turned on my Apple TV the other day. It said when I had the rental that you only have 4 hours left to go to watch this, because of course once you start watching it expires at 24 hours right. After that point. So there wasn't really much else as far as the Apple TV, but I'm really liking the Apple TV even more. A lot of the app developers out there are doing a great job of supporting this device, so I'm very impressed with that. And lastly, what I'll touch about as far as the file system and the systems, I just mentioned it earlier about the fact that how will we know what apps will be compatible when iOS 11 comes out. Now, we went through that list. You can go in and take a look at the applications, and it'll show you. But like I said, that's where the answer pretty much lies, is when you go into the applications list, and it gives you a long list of stuff that's not compatible. The thing is that there's going to be, when this iOS 11 comes out, don't be surprised. A lot of the apps start disappearing from the App Store because Apple's going to say, hey, well, you didn't update this, so we're pulling it. So they want everything in 64-bit. And it makes sense because it's a much faster platform. So
only devoted will survive.
Well, we're going to move on and talk about some of the apps because we're getting close on time here. Some of the apps that I recommended, as well as, did you recommend any apps this week?
No, it's all you, Dave. You got all kinds of stuff to talk about.
These are all mine? Oh my gosh, you're making me work hard today. So let's talk about the first one I found out about. I was listening to the MacGeek app, and I'll give them credit because I wasn't aware of this app until they were talking about it in relation to being able to play a video that's still in Flash. Oh my God. There's still websites out there to be able to play Flash that still use Flash. I still can't believe it to this day.
It's still rampant in education. We're stuck with it. I
know. So there is an older browser out there that I've been using before called Photon, Photon. That one has still been around. That one wasn't free, but it also hasn't been updated in probably almost 2 years. So I couldn't recommend it. So that's why I didn't recommend it. But this one is called Puffin Web Browser. So this is a web browser, just like if you were to get Firefox or Chrome, which is also available on iOS. But the greatest thing about this about this app is it's as they say in their description, it's a wicked fast mobile browser, and I agree with it 120%. This thing loads insanely fast. So I don't know what they did to improve some of the speeds, but it's been pretty awesome. And then also said, like I said, it does allow the playing of Flash content. It does have a button that you could tap and it automatically adapts to it. It's got a good gaming when it comes to helping with the works with the way it interacts in the browser, and it does help also with your bandwidth. It gives you some measurements and tells you how much bandwidth you're using right in the browser, which is great because some people are challenged when it comes to bandwidth, especially if you're using cellular. So the great thing about it is it's absolutely free, and it's both iPad and iPhone design, so it works really well. It's called Puffin Web Browser by Cloud Moza, and I would highly recommend it, and we will have it in show notes for you to click and download. Since you brought it up,
I'm going to have to change my mind because I'm familiar with the other version that they make, which is called Puffin Academy. it's the same developer, and the icon is actually very similar. It's just it's another picture of a puffin with a purple background. And I am actually very familiar with this because you may have heard me talk about this before, but I've actually volunteered at my children's school to roll out their iPads and use deployment. And in part of that, I was actually able to really make the principal happy because there's something that our school uses called iReady. And maybe people are familiar with that, but I'll just use it as an example because it is a very popular and widespread use curriculum is what it is. And they use it for testing and they use it for data collection, for testing and academics and all that sort of thing. And one of the biggest bummers about iPads in education, there aren't that many, but there's this one big bummer. And like I said before, there are so many curriculum apps and programs out there that are Flash-based. And their iReady is one of them. And so when I was able to, I forget how I stumbled across this, but I installed this, and I was actually able to use our children's iReady site through Puffin Academy. And when I showed this to the principal, his eyes just like lit up because this meant it was that many more devices that they could put out there, and they could, schedule testing and lessons and things like that. And so it's one more device in our home that the kids can do their lessons on because they get assigned it for homework. So, and it tracks their progress. It's for math and reading. So so I have to put that in there. So I'll just piggyback off of that and put a little link to it. So it's
absolutely.
Puffin Academy, same kind of thing, but it's specifically geared towards education platform apps, or not apps, but websites that run on Flash, and you can bookmark them. So I've actually set it up in the deployment when I deployed all the iPads. I bookmarked the site that the kids need to go to with the state and everything, so that it's makes it more efficient, so that the kids don't have to go and navigate to it. They can just click on the little favorite bookmark that's set up for them. So, good stuff.
Absolutely. So, as we're coming to a close here of the show, I'm going to talk about one more app that's near and dear to my heart. Is one of my favorite all-time podcatchers for podcasting called Downcast. It's not free, but it's worth every penny. It's $2.99. It does a wonderful job of managing all of your all your podcasts in one place and being able to listen to them. You can download them. You can forward a link to them, bookmark them. It does an amazing job of doing completely what you want to do when it comes to dealing with your podcasts. You can search, you can subscribe. You can manually subscribe, and that's what I like to do. Is I have probably right now 72 podcasts sitting in my podcatcher in Downcast right now. Do I listen to all those? Right. No. I don't have any. I don't think that anybody would have enough time in the day to listen to all those podcasts. But it's nice because I can customize it and I can create my own list of all the podcasts that I want to monitor. And if there's something that catches my eye, I want to listen to it. Yeah, by all means, I take care of it. Other cool thing it does is it does speed playback. So some people like to listen to podcasts a little faster, so it kind of speeds it up. That drives me crazy. I can't do it.
Yeah, don't do that with this because I'm caffeinated.
Yeah, even at 1.25 or 1.5, I go crazy. I can't. I want to listen to it at normal speed. But it does allow you to stream the episodes, so you don't have to download them if you want to, but you also can download them, which is great, especially if you go on a trip and you want to have them on your device while you're on the plane, so and you're not online. It has a sleep timer, which is cool. You can set and listen to it. Use your sleep headphones. I forgot the name of the race. The sleep phones, I was right. And you could set the sleep timer and then be able to listen to podcasts and fall asleep to it. So it's called Downcast. We'll have a link to that in the show notes as well. And lastly, I want to talk about MacStock. I know you and I are very excited about this. I want to always talk about MacStock. And MacStock 2017 is coming up out in Woodstock, Illinois, which is out in my hometown neck of the woods, outside of Chicago, and it's actually in Crystal Lake. It's McHenry County College, and there are just amazing amount of list of speakers that are going to be there. Myself speaking, I'll be talking about efficiencies in iOS. I'm really excited to talk about that topic, and I think it's going to be a really good topic for about 20 minutes. You couldn't tell. You couldn't tell I'd be excited about that. But you have some of the all-stars are coming. Chuck Joyner from the Mac Voices podcast, Dave Hamilton from the Mac Observer and Mac Geek Gab, Of course, Jody Spangler joining you from Lakeshore Mac.
We're going to continue our senior moments theme.
There you go. I can't wait to see that again. And of course, you're on right after me, so you better come watch me this time.
I'll have to rehearse better.
Allison Sheridan from the Nozilla cast. I can't wait to see her. She missed last year because her daughter had a baby. So, but she was a trooper, and she still showed up in spirit. She did a remote podcast, and it was amazing. She's just a great job. I can't say enough about how great Mike Potter and Barry Falk putting together the Mac Mingle, which is going to be a great event afterwards. And I can't say enough about it, and I'm sure you can't either. I'm going to say with MacStock, we have a special coupon code. We can save you $30 if you go to the registration page, which will be linked on our show notes, and use the coupon code InTouchWithIOS. And like I said, you will save $30 off your ticket. It'll be any of the tickets that you choose, because it's going to be 2 full days. You can go to the July 15th and July 16th, and I can't say how much I'm excited I am about it.
Yeah, come see us.
You could tell them how excited you are too.
I am so excited about it.
I know you're excited as well.
And I want everybody to go check out our beautifully crafted, lovingly crafted show notes.
Yes.
Because I actually put links to this stuff. When you go and use, for example, Downcast or the podcast app, whatever you choose, and you tap on our artwork, you will see the show notes. And if you scroll down through, there's going to be links to all the articles that we talked about and references for you and apps that you might want to buy after or download for free. And at the bottom and at the top, but at the bottom, you will see a link to MacStock 2017. And in fact, you can tap on our names and it'll take you to the page that shows what our talks are going to be about and what time. And then there's even a link that takes you directly to where you can order your tickets and use that coupon code, which is In Touch with iOS. All one word. Don't put any spaces in there. It's just In Touch with iOS. And it'll take you right to the page where you can order your tickets.
Absolutely. So with that, I think we can wrap this puppy up.
Put a bow on
talk about a lie. You want to put a bow on this one. Any comments you want to make? You want to contact us? You get on our blog. We have a website, intouchwithios.com, and Melissa did a great job of tweaking that website up, and we're continually evolving that.
Yeah,
we got a great blog.
Always going to be a work in progress. It's like one of my
absolutely. That's what's so fun about this. Yeah, and then you also can make any comments. We do have a Facebook page on In Touch with iOS. You can reach out to me on Twitter at DaveG65, and Melissa, you're at the Mac Mommy. And
we have an In Touch with iOS Twitter.
Yeah, we do have an In Touch with iOS. We got to start getting some followers on that.
Yeah, you guys got to help us out with that, huh? Tell your friends.
So go follow us on Twitter at In Touch with iOS. So with that, thanks for listening, and we hope you're more in touch with iOS after hearing this episode. Subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher, and then, like I said, Downcast is my favorite, and there's plenty others. You also can look for us on iTunes, and we also have all the feeds available on our website. We look forward to bringing you more useful information in future episodes. I'm David Ginsburg.
And I'm Melissa Davis.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.